Welcome to the WangHiro podcast, where we answer Malaysians' burning questions about personal finance with fact-based answers. Study hard, get a degree, and get a good job. If you grew up Asian, getting a university education is expected of you if you want to find any chance of success in your career or in life in general. But is getting a degree still fit in 2023? The cost of university education is going up everywhere around the world, including Malaysia. A lot of people are now finding it difficult to justify the cost of education against their potential earnings. In our first episode of Is It Worth It? We're asking, is going to university worth it in 2023? John, you have 1 degree and 2 master's degrees. Looking back on your career, do you think it's worth it?
I'm a bit embarrassed to share too many certificates actually.
Why?
It's like in Hokkien we have a phrase "Jiapa bo su zuo," you know, it's like you eat too full, you got nothing to do, is it go and get degree. Yeah, I don't think for me it was, in terms of money, it was worth it. But I shouldn't say that is because I was on scholarship for all my ever since I yeah, so I was on a JPA scholarship for my degree, and I was on a JPA scholarship for my master's. And then for my second master's, it was on a Shell scholarship. It was fully paid for by Shell. So in a way, I worked for the scholarship. But looking back, I guess it's not so much the know-how of the what I got, but it was more of the systematic ways to teach me how to think. But if I were to spend money, if I were to think back, right, I was very tempted to do my MBA. But looking at it, I was like, I look at all my MBA friends, right? Then I compare them to my business friends who are running businesses. They only have SPM, LuWee.
Yeah. And I know a few like that also.
yeah. And I think they are much more street smart than, MBA doesn't guarantee you that you know how to run a business, you see. So it's all about other intrinsic and extrinsic kind of skill sets that you have to acquire over time and over experience. What about yours, LuWee? I mean, I remember you had a philosophy that you didn't want to go very far. You wanted to stay close by to save. I don't know. Was there a reason to save costs?
Yeah. So similar to you, I also was very fortunate to have my degree paid for by a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So very interestingly was like I was, studying very hard initially to get into the top colleges in the world, like the Oxfords, the Imperial colleges, all of those like big name schools in the world. But I ended up at a smaller school, Kertin, in Sarawak. So that was an interesting twist in my plan because of family matters. At that time, my mom was not very well, and then she said one thing to me which really made me think, okay, I think I need to make a choice right now. Do I think I want to pursue a dream, so-called dream, or I just want to be by my mom's side to support her during this very difficult time? And at that time I was like, okay, it's okay. I think it's worth it. I can just stay here, and then anyway, this school is okay. It's not the like a top 10 school in the world. I was aiming for a top 3 school in the world, but it's okay. I think it's okay. At least it's close by. At least I have a university here. And at that time, my school facilitator, university facilitator, apologies, was suggesting, you have, because I over prepared for this thing, to get into like the Oxford and Cambridges in the world, you have to have those things, right? But to get into this school, then it's like, you have way too much now. I had the straight A's all the way. I was like a top 1 student in my whole school. And then like all of these like medals from competitions, like biology competition, I got like at Canadian like biology competition, I got the only plaque in the country, like this medal. So everything combined, I didn't think much of it. I just passed it over to the university facilitator, and she's like, okay, in fact, you might qualify for the fully waived for 4 years scholarship. So let's just apply that. I didn't think much of it. So she helped to apply. And initially I didn't want it because the scholarship like mandated that you need to spend 4 years in Sarawak. I didn't really want that. I wanted to do a twinning program with Australia.
I see.
But my mom convinced me. She's like, it's actually a good financial decision. I'm like, okay lah. okay, like, I trust you. Then I just signed off. So yeah, so that's the story of how I got to this school and this circumstance. Totally accidental, completely unplanned.
Understood.
Completely unplanned, yeah.
Yeah, it would have what saved you at least 300,000, I guess. Ringgit.
The fees was close to 100K. Yeah, could yeah, including everything.
Yeah. And then if you've not done the twinning, you would have gone there, spent.
Yeah,
They
correct.
would have paid for the stipend for your tuition fees, but I think most of your
Yeah,
living expenses you have to
correct,
take out on your own, right?
correct.
Yeah.
No, yes, correct, but the scholarship would not extend to that. It was just for the Malaysia campus.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the gist of what we're trying to address today is that a lot of parents, a lot of students are in a dilemma of whether they should spend that kind of money to actually go overseas to study, and then is it really worth it? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to break down is, I think the objective of me addressing this and you trying to like come out of this episode is it worth it? What are the criteria that you should be looking at to say whether it's worth it? And
Yeah.
more importantly is that if you're at a crossroads where you're going to put financial burden on yourself, the families, to actually do that, then where do you draw the line? How do we help you in coming up with a decision? Because to each his own. We're not saying that you shouldn't go. If you can get into Oxford and your family can afford it, go right ahead. I mean, there's a prestigious name. Get into Harvard, get into Stanford, right? No problem at all. But if you're like, you know that it's going to put a financial burden to the family and you need to get loans and all that kind of thing, then how do you make, I would say, compromises, and what are the things that you may be missing out, or it could be just a perception that you're missing out, So I think maybe let's look at it. Why do we actually go for a degree, LuWee, for you?
For me, when I was a kid, right, I was very, very academically inclined. Not because I wanted anything. It's just nothing else to do, lah. So I just since I was good at school, I just excelled at it. I was not very competitive. So for me, there was no real reason except for wanting to achieve higher and higher academic gains. I was no I think nowadays, right, with the advancement of social media, people can see, the other side of coming out of graduation. But back then, I think most students would think, okay, now I got the straight A's, here I got A-level straight A's. Next is Harvard or Oxford or something like that, right? It's just the next thing, right? It's just the next thing. And I think as students, you don't think beyond that. For me, at least that was the case. I should have thought. I feel like now looking back, I should have thought more about my career. But back then, I didn't. How about you, John? Why did you pick
That's an interesting take. So just to repeat your phrase, you didn't think beyond that because it was it's like an attainment. Everyone tells you that it's supposed to, you get a degree, it's an attainment, it's a milestone in life that you have to hit whatever, right? And then you didn't think beyond that. I was a bit luckier. I wouldn't say it was I enjoy reading. And one of the things that I used to enjoy reading, ironically, was advertisements. Job advertisements. So as a 17, 18-year-old, I was reading job advertisements because I wanted to be a pilot. I failed because I got glasses and I had motion sickness, so that's out of the question. But I wanted to understand what did the job market requirement needed. And it's a very good segue into the point I'm trying to make, because the day and age where you study medicine, you study law, you study engineering, and you study your typical subjects and you're industry ready. I would argue the other way around. I would argue that they give you a foundation, a solid foundation, but actually the moment you finish your degree, your clock get reset to zero again. Because
it's actually very unfortunate, right? But some of these jobs mandate you to have those degrees, which you spend 4 years on. Engineering requires you to have a degree, but then you come out and you have to learn everything from scratch.
Yes. The best part, you see job advertisements, LuWee, it said, oh, we want this degree. And then at the bottom, they want this experience. And then at the same time, they said fresh graduates encouraged to apply. I'm like, hello?
Yeah, I mean, 3 to 5. So I might suppose, how does that work? 3 to 5 years experience. I've seen the same job advertisements, 3 to 5 years of experience. That's not a fresh graduate anymore, right?
And the best part is, you never you don't have experience, you're fresh graduate. Then I'll pay you the lowest I can, because you're fresh graduate. I have to teach you like zero. So again, you see, the mismatch in expectation, And
Mm.
I'm going to share a different angle now, LuWee, and it's going to very be linked about industry readiness and about cost, right?
Mm.
So I was actually accepted to the German Malaysian Institute. I had to take an IQ test. I had to take a EQ test at a 17-year-old. All right, and for me and you to get accepted, it was I would say it's not an easy process. Virtually, you have to take a test, aptitude test, and everything. Okay, so why I was fascinated about the German education system is that if you are not academically inclined, they have a system of apprenticeship.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
you start an apprenticeship at about 15 or 16-year-old, right? When you like in middle secondary school and you don't know what you do, you're not that academically inclined, they will send you to any one of the industries and then you become an apprentice. So you actually start sometimes by sweeping the floor in a wood factory. You start by like doing menial work. But what you do is every holiday of your school holiday, you actually go to the factory of which you are attached to as an apprentice, and then you slowly work your way. And then what they do for kids that are not academically inclined is this: they nurture the understanding of the skill or the trade, and then at 18, 19 years old, hey, they found that their real love, their passion. And that's where they allow them another path to say, hey, can you upgrade to like in Malaysia, we have this, it's called SKM, Sijil Kemahiran Malaysia. I don't know if you heard of it. It's SKM one, two,
No,
three.
I've
No.
never heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we go the prestigious path, lah, which is like the university was. I went to
That
a
was the only path I knew of. If I knew there was this Kemahiran thing, I would just go for that.
and
Right? A lot of people,
yeah,
I think, don't know there's
don't
like
know
other
that. Yeah,
paths.
because it's
Yeah.
very, very poorly publicized. Actually, in Malaysia, we have this thing called a Institute Latihan Perindustrian. So, for those of you who don't really know Bahasa, it just literally translates to a skills training institute. Institute
That one
Latihan.
I've heard of ILP. You know that I have very, very good reviews. I have a cousin who did an ILP course in like interior design.
Yeah.
And then like she came out and then like earned like a 3 to 4K right away.
Yeah.
That's like beats like a lot of degree hold, and she was like 18, 19 at that time. Yeah.
And
A
you're
lot.
industry ready.
Industry, completely industry, like came out because they have all of these like I think they link with a lot of companies, right, to help
Precisely.
these like it is like a kind of like semi apprenticeship kind of setup. So like I asked my cousin about it and she's like, oh, they teach you all of these, like you come out and then you even work with the companies you used to work with during your training. Yeah.
Correct.
Super
So
high salary.
yeah, so
No
that's why.
degree, yeah, until today. Yeah.
So, but you see, the Asian culture and all, we are not just Asian culture. I think globally, we still have a fetish for like, oh, you came from Harvard, oh, you came from MIT, whatever. Now, in the olden days, when you're talking about the 1980s or whatever, people like no, even way back, during Einstein days, right? The Technical Institute of Zurich where Einstein studied and all that. You go to university is because you are going to do what we call fundamental research. You go back to basics. You don't
Oh.
do like engineering. Engineering is an applied science. You actually do like physics degrees. You do like chemistry degrees. You go back to first principles and you're expected to like build breakthrough kind of studies and things like that. But as universities grew, as they found out it was a great money making tool, and then there's a prestige attached to it, right? That's where I think all this got convoluted lah, for the lack of a better word. It's like Valentine's Day. It's like Valentine's Day, right? Why does restaurants have to do anything with it? Why does candles? Why does all these are all marketing, branding, kind of, and because of that, it gets all convoluted. They just pack in more and more price. Now you think about it, I have a friend who runs a technical institute, one of the biggest private technical institutes in Malaysia. Okay, their graduates are SPM failures, but by the time they finish, don't even say finish. Before they even finish their diploma, LuWee, especially in mechanical, automotive, and engineering, Mercedes, BMW, all want the graduates already. So it's
Wow.
100% employment rate. It's 100%, 110 because they're not producing enough. And he actually shared me this very interesting. I'm trying to bring him to the show, but this is a little bit tight for this past few weeks. He said the moment a university finish, right, they give you a degree, they hold a convocation, and then that's it. You're on your own, right?
Correct.
Whereas these guys, it's like the syllabus is baked in from industry input. That means the industry will tell them use this machine, buy this machine, so that they are familiar with this skill, whatever, and all that kind of thing. And it's even more expensive. And this is where it's important. This statement actually really blew my mind. I said, you want to step out a technical institute, the machine you cost you versus that of university. University, what do they need to do? They just need to buy table and projector.
Yeah, everything just show on textbook only. This is how it doesn't really don't really touch it. Don't
Correct.
really.
There's
I
no
remember
lab.
I just walked in and then like even if there's a lab, you sometimes can't touch it, do anything with it, right? Oh, it's too expensive, you know.
Yes. So again, I'm trying to share from this different angle because I came out through a polytech. People actually belittle people from polytech, but a lot of times I meet engineers who are from universities. You ask them to wire a circuit, it's tough because they were never taught skills. They were taught concepts. They learn circuit theory on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
We learn circuit theory by wiring it.
I actually also learned, wiring and all that on my first job. Never in school, never. Yeah. I learned it from the technicians that I worked with. They taught me how to wire and all that. Then, but you have to be willing to. There's no like systematic way they teach you like in the polytech school. That's a great advantage to have, because like if you had to learn it on the job where it's not structured, it's you're gonna be vulnerable to the whims of the teacher, right?
Precisely.
Sometimes if you're good with the technician, they'll teach you. Sometimes if they're not happy with you, they won't teach you lah. This is the case for a lot of engineering graduates. I feel like it's just me.
Especially when you have too much ego, LuWee. That's the struggle.
Oh yeah, too much ego. I mean, you don't have you don't have to do it. It's just if you can do it, that would make your life a lot easier, I think.
Right.
Then the thing is like, okay, now we have a lot of engineering graduates, and I see that when I started, my salary was 2,000 ringgit only, and yet now a lot of engineers are still paid that, But if we look at the school fees for going to university to get an engineering degree, okay, let's take a look at we compare two different fees, okay, one from IPTA and then one from IPTS, so public versus private. So engineering at University of Nottingham, okay, Nottingham is a UK university, so they have their program is a master's degree, 4 years, so it's 50,000 ringgit, 4K a year. So over 4 years, that's over 200. We have the UTM. That's your uni, right? UTM. It's 4 years for 11,200. Okay, so we have two different comparisons. Obviously, if you just look at the financials alone, you'll see that okay, one is cheaper. If you go for the UTM path, definitely you can make it back lah. Yeah, definitely can make it back within 1 year. But if you go to the private university path, my degree I think was close to 100K. It's like 90 something thousand. That was 10 years ago, 13 years ago. So probably with inflation now, it's like above 100, maybe 120K. About there. So if you factor those in, right, just from cost alone, probably those are not justified, right? So
But here's the struggle, LuWee. The justification in the eyes of the employer is like you have a piece of paper that says you are at least worth this much. And I like it that you brought the point that regardless of like even 10 years after including inflation, the salary is still the same. Why the industry is not paying more for this, but they're willing to pay more for skills? You see, that's the point I'm trying to make, because for them, a fresh graduate comes out, your clock resets to zero, you have to start training them again for industry-ready skills. Then my question would be, it's like, then why did I spend so much money to develop all this, right? To develop a degree, right? To come out with a degree, and yet I'm still not industry ready. You see?
Correct. So like knowing this, right? obviously, I think the problem is like with engineering, you cannot get away without a degree, right? If you want to be an engineer, you have to have a degree. I worked with a technician. It was like when I worked with him, one of the MNCs back then was like he had been a technician for 7 years, still couldn't like become an engineer despite like having all this experience, having done the job on the job, right? Because he didn't have a degree, he couldn't, get that pay rate, get that.
Yes.
That's the thing about our country and a lot of countries. I think you force the degree, but then the degree doesn't reflect the experience or even the skills needed
Precisely.
sometimes.
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah.
So kind
And
of like in between a rock and a hard place.
place. Yeah. Yeah. And
Medicine is the same. Medicine is the same. I feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you finish medicine, MBBS, right? You're actually not valuable, You have to do
Oh.
houseman 2 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Then you become a GP. Okay. Hopefully in a place where you get to see like a lot of patients. If you get sent into a very rural hospital, it's even better because you have to manage with less resources and you have to like be creative of how you want to treat them. But where you really make big bucks is when you become a specialist, which takes another few years. Like my cousin, he's now studying ophthalmology, and it's just another 4 years. Okay, so
How old is he? 40s, right?
now he's now in his 30s, right?
Oh,
30s.
30s,
So
okay.
yeah. So again, I think not to be fair. Also, if you look from a monetary angle, it doesn't make sense. But I think that's where we're trying to advocate in this episode. Is like, please do something, not just because you're looking at it from the money perspective only at the ROI, but at the same time, we're telling you that do not forget the ROI because it is still money upfront. And if you're looking at like in a career or a return that your
I mean,
investment,
like you have to finance this fee somehow. You either get it from your parents' scholarship,
yeah,
or like you get it from a scholarship. Government might be paying. Someone's paying for it, or like more commonly you have a PTPN or high ed loan, right? So I mean, I didn't have that, but my friends told me that they just recently finished paying it. I'm 34 now. We graduated 12 years ago.
can
12
you
years,
imagine?
every month it's like 700 every single month.
Yeah,
Deducted. It's like imagine if you start off a salary only 2,000,
yeah,
how much should you? That's 2,000, not before EPF, So it's like 1,008 after minus 700. You will have like 1,100 to survive off,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in Malaysia it's not exacerbated yet, but if you go to the US, the study loans, it's a big crisis. So yeah, I think it's now common knowledge, and I want to switch the conversation slightly to this, right? Knowing all this, no, now we lay the facts on the table. It's expensive. It may not guarantee you a good paying salary at the end of the day. So think about how to finance it as well. Think of ways that sometimes you may not need to spend so much money because the ROI it may not be there. But what else can you do about it? I think that's the angle I want to like end this conversation with. Knowing that the cost is going to be expensive, you can finance it through a scholarship, fantastic. But what else can be done to get you industry ready, job ready? And let's just say you don't want to go to a technical school, which I'm absolutely, you're more academically inclined, you want to go through this. If you're not so academically inclined, you want to go to a vocational technical school, which is like, there's still a stigma, that's the problem. That's a stigma. But I'm not going to go there because it's going to drag on. But more importantly, what else can you do, LuWee? In some way, what are the skills that you can pick up? And you have like, you're now an entrepreneur running your own business, making more than 5 figures a month. But what skill sets that you picked up outside of your normal university friends that brought you value to the table, for the lack of a better?
So like even though I was very, very academically inclined back then, I was very fortunate that I had a brother who was much more into investing. So during my third year, the penultimate year, he actually passed me this Adam Cole book that actually shaped my mind into like, I have to get, myself. I would say the first thing is to get your attitude ready. It's a kind of entitlement actually, if you think about it, that if I do this, then I'll definitely be offered this job. It's a kind of entitlement, I feel. From that process of like self-discovery, like after the Adam Cole book, I read a couple more, I realized, I am not industry ready.
Ah.
So I then like that took that step into it, into like, okay, so I'm now have to shift my brain from a student into a working adult. That
Mm,
has to happen,
mm,
so luckily it happened like before I graduated.
I see.
So that year I also like picked up a course around like job applications, and I realized that, oh, you actually have to start applying for a job even before you graduate. Yeah,
Got
so
it.
6 to 8 months before that, I started to apply for my job, and then from there, I realized that, oh, even after all of this, my pay is so low. Even after all that I did, my pay is and I calculated I will not increase, it will not
Mm,
going
mm,
up, right? So then after that, I realized, you know what, this set of skills isn't enough. Then I started to think about like, oh, what are the potential paths I could take on top of this. I didn't think of like replacing it, in fact, like completely. I just thought like, okay, maybe what can I do like to
supplementing. Yeah.
supplement this, so I started to think, okay, I just listed out all my interests lah. It was I'm a very eclectic person lah, so I have interest in arts. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do some drawing, I can do
Mm,
this. I've listed, and I tried to try everything lah. So with every path, I thought, I asked myself what skills that I need, and I slowly built it, and I'm still doing it today, up to today. Every single business I do now, as long as it's stable, I start to think about what's the next skill I need. So I think for me, the crucial thing is always be open to learning past your degree. Outside of that, a lot of people are not open to doing it. They feel like, okay, I got this. I'm an engineer. I'll just go and be an engineer. Doctors are the same. If you look at a lot of doctors, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprising, maybe I'm not in the medical field, but a lot of doctors are referring to old research. So that I feel the learning stopped when they stepped out the university.
the
Yeah. So
ability to unlearn and relearn new things.
probably that's a great way to put it lah. So for me, that process really helped. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think one more angle that I would add on top of what you said was a lot of skills are not taught in classes, even in schools or universities. Things like, okay, in teamwork, how do you influence decisions?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
How do you like talk to people and negotiate people? How do you like do you use the carrot or stick method? How do you think strategically? All these kind of things, ironically, I found it was actually out of classroom kind of activities that help.
Oh yeah.
Were
That's
you
that's
in a
true. That's true.
yeah, were you in a
Oh, okay. Actually,
club? Were you like, for me
oh
it was
yeah.
scouts. It was for me it was scouts. For me it was like competitive sports and things like that, because that's where you
Mm.
you learn to be, you take humbleness, you learn how to eat humble pie when you lose. Don't be a sore loser. You learn competitiveness, that you have to be prepared and all that kind of thing. And I think those are the kind of things that if you're going to uni and you're not doing outside activities, like like Oxford,
Mm.
they're very famous for their rowing team. The
Right. Yeah.
Oxford
Yeah.
rowing team, they're very famous for it.
Yeah.
Harvard as well, the same thing.
Oh, now that you mention it, maybe because I uni was so long ago, I actually did intentionally like join those clubs just to develop my social skills lah,
Correct,
and all
correct,
the
correct.
skills you mentioned. So
Yeah,
my sport was karate, the martial arts. So
yeah,
I became the club president. I organized a lot of events just for the purpose of learning those skills.
correct,
How to
correct.
manage a team, all of that. Yeah, I would say that's one of the key things what you can do inside of the curriculum, inside of the school. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a uni, I think this is
Yeah.
what I encourage
Mhm.
you. The problem is this: I was speaking to Matt Van Leeuwen. Matt is actually the CEO of the Sunway Innovations Lab, and one of the podcasts I interviewed him was so funny, LuWee. He said these students. So on the other end of the spectrum, these students join these extracurricular activities all for the certificate.
Oh, certificate.
More than a lot of certificate. Oh, I
Really?
was president of this, whatever.
Wow.
And then after that, they said,
Mm-hmm.
but what did you learn? What do you contribute? So it's like, yeah, I got the cert. So they join a lot of these
Okay.
extracurricular things, but it's only for the certificate, not so much for the skill.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm
Interesting.
trying to point this angle from his observation, and I absolutely agree with him, because it was like, yes, it puts you in good stead, but when an employer looks at you, yeah, you were president of this or you were this, that, whatsoever, right? Whatever association, right? It's not so much of the certificate that they're looking for. It's the person that you have become that you have done this. It's not for the certificate. But
it will also be obvious during the interview if you didn't have like interpersonal skills, though.
yeah, that's the thing, you see. But that's where you know Matt was sharing. He said when he interviews people and they bring this whole stack of folders with all the certificates there, right? It's trying to say like I've done like 1,000
It's
and
the
one thing.
entitlement, lah, John.
Yeah,
It's the entitlement. So I'm not saying anyone's entitled. It's just like an ingrained entitlement we have. I feel like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, like you see for yourself who I am, but
Yeah.
you kind of like, you know, let that person do the work, but you just sit back because I've done the work, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think maybe pivoting back into the these few anchors again is like now helping you make a decision is like your financial state. Is it going to like burden your family's financial constraint, or if you can get a scholarship, it's even better. Second thing is it something that you enjoy? For me, it's like if you are doing something because of the thought that it can make you more money, but you're not going to enjoy, you think about your entire career, 30, 40 years, right? You actually just going to like have this loss aversion feeling because crap, I did medicine. I spent like 500,000 or even more. I think today medicine, if you want to do overseas, is easily 1 million. Okay.
Oh,
And
more
then,
than, yeah.
yeah. And then when you come out, you do a houseman and say, oh no, I hate this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And the last thing
and
I think
also
is
the prestige. Yeah.
the
Just don't do
prestige.
it for the prestige.
Yeah. And the last thing is, I think if you don't know, and this is what I highly encourage, and I used to laugh at people who do this, do a gap year.
Gap year.
Yeah. Because the
If you
problem
can
is,
afford it, I think it's a great.
yeah. It doesn't need to be like a backpacking holiday in Europe, whatever. It could just be work. Just go and work for someone. You know, you may not get paid as well, but what you do is it opens your eyes to a lot of things. And I think that's what a lot of, for the lack of a better word, the students who feel that entitlement is because their path has been planned for them. Parents will fork the bill for university. They even choose like which uni to get in. Parents will pull strings to put you in a particular university, whatever, right? But then in the end, what are the skill sets that you have missed because of this? You've not made your own decision. Do you really know is that something that is good for you and your personality? And I think the anchor of this entire series is it worth it? It's a question back to you. Answer those questions that we have put as an anchor. And for me, I'll end with this example, LuWee. I had a colleague who was a parent, very smart parent. He said, son, I have this 500,000 ready for you. Okay. This is the amount that I reserve for you to do a university in Australia or UK, 500,000. Okay. You can have a choice. Study everything locally. Okay. And whatever balance, if you study in Curtin, 100K, 400K, it's all yours. Go and spend whatever amount you want with it. Completely yours, right? You could even like study everything locally or start a business. Or you want to start a business with it at 500,000? Completely your choice. You want to spend the whole 500,000 in the University of Melbourne or you go to the UK and spend, it's entirely your choice. I've already budgeted this for you. Okay. And I think by then, right, it places a sense of responsibility that the decision making goes to the kids. And they also feel this like, wow, okay, now I have to decide. You know, it's like your future, you know, rather than parents prepare everything for you. The decision making and the joy of decision making is taken away from them, you know.
Yeah.
I love that concept, you know.
It's great. It's great. I mean, how far along away are the kids from doing that though? Oh, have they done that?
I haven't followed up with them. I mean,
Okay.
it was my colleague in Shell. If I remembered correctly, the son actually decided to spend everything by studying in Melbourne. So I was a bit sad though, to be
No,
honest.
but like I think at that age you would,
Yeah.
because like you have not been. Sometimes it's like you just feel like you want to change, just go somewhere.
Correct.
There's also the holiday aspect of it. I can't deny. If you can afford it, why not? It's also great to experience Melbourne, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that wraps up our video for today. So I want to put this question over to you. If you went to university, was it for you? And if you didn't, why? And do you want to do one today? If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up to help us with the YouTube algorithm. We would really, really appreciate it. And if you want more content from WangHiro, make sure to subscribe to our channel. So thank you guys for tuning in this video. So see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.